So in honor of the Oilers being down 3-0 in the Stanley Cup Finals and the fact that no Canadian team has won a Stanley Cup in over 30 goddamn years, I will be bringing another Canadian team back from the dead in the Quebec Nordiques, and I have 10 years to rebuild them and win a Stanley Cup in NHL 24. Now, am I going to be able to do that? I don't have those answers. I guess you'll have to watch the video, but here we are in 2023. The expansion draft is about to begin. And we have the Quebec Nordiques in NHL 24. I'm going to take and select all the players that I want. Now, unfortunately, we did not get the first overall pick. That will go to the Columbus Blue Jackets, but we are going to end up selecting fourth overall. We actually fell from third to fourth as Anaheim fell as well. And then Washington was goddamn ninth, and they grew all the way to second overall in the draft. Starting off from the Anaheim Ducks, I will be taking Lucas Dostal. Arizona honestly doesn't have too many great options. I guess I'll go with Travis McDermott, who's an 80 overall at 26 years old. Moving on to Boston. From the Boston Bruins, I would be foolish not to take Jeremy Swayman, 87 overall, 24 years of age. We have our starting goalie of the future. From the Buffalo Sabres, I am going to go with Matthias Samuelsson, 82 overall, but he's only 23 years old and he signed for 8 years. I will also be selecting Dustin Wolf from the Calgary Flames. Again, I would be stupid not to. He's high elite potential. If anything, we don't end up having him as our starter. We can literally trade him, as he does have some pretty good trade value in this game. From the Carolina Hurricanes, I'm going to take Evgeny Kuznetsov, 85 overall, signed for 3 years, I believe it was. From Chicago, moving along here, I think I'll go with Andreas Athanasiou, 3 years at $4.2 million. From Colorado, I will have to go with Casey Middlestat. Pretty young at 24, 84 overall as well. From Columbus, I will be taking Jake Bean, 81 overall at 25 years old. From Dallas, I think I'm going to go with Mason Marchman, who's a pretty decent overall at 84, and he's locked up for 4 years at only 28 years old, so that's not a bad pickup. Now for Detroit, we could take Daniel Sprong, who's 82 at 26 years old. I think I will go with him. From the Edmonton Oilers, I will take Matthias Ekholm. He is 33 years old, but I mean, it will make us a pretty good team in year number one. Now, Gustav Forsling from Florida is a no-brainer. 85, 27 years of age, and he's locked up for 2 years. Next up is Mikey Anderson from the LA Kings, locked up long-term for 9 years. Next up is Ryan Hartman from the Minnesota Wild. Moving on to Montreal. They don't really have any great options, in all honesty, so I might go with Josh Anderson. Actually, Josh Anderson makes way too much money. Screw it. Jake Evans, 27 years old, signed for 3 years, only 1.7. Welcome to the team. From Nashville, I will be taking Dante Fabro, 25 years old at 83 overall. From New Jersey, I think I'm going to go with John Marino. He's only 26 years old. I could go with Michael McLeod, but no thank you. 4.4 for 5 years. I will take it. From the Islanders, I'm going to take Alexander Romanov. From the Rangers, another no-brainer in Keandre Miller. And from the Ottawa Senators, I will take Kubalik. He is 27 years old, but a decent overall at 83, and we also have 10 defensemen already. I thought about going with Eric Brandstrom, but I mean, our D-core already is pretty stacked. I will be taking Owen Tippett from the Philadelphia Flyers. Pittsburgh does not have really any great options, so I'll go with Lars Zeller. He is 34 years old, only making 2.4 though. From San Jose, I will take Luke Kunin, who's only an 80 at 25 years old, but he's not making a lot of money. From the Seattle Kraken, I'm going with Eli Tolavainen. Elite low potential, still very young at 24 years old, 81 overall. That is a no-brainer for me, in all honesty. Now, from the St. Louis Blues, I could go with Brandon Saad. Man, Brandon Saad, I didn't even know he still was in the NHL. It's been so long since I've heard of this guy. Instead, you know what? Screw it. I will go with Kasperi Kapanen, 26 years old, 81 overall. From the Tampa Bay Lightning, I mean, I could go with Anthony Duclair, but I think I want to go with Eric Chernak. He signed for 9 years at $4.8 million, so that's a defenseman that I will not have to sign basically the entire video. Now, from the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm going to go with Calle Jarnkrok, 80 overall at 31 years old, not making a lot of money either. I guess from Vancouver, I'll take Di Giuseppe, 78 overall, almost 30 years old, just a depth forward. Considering we have 11 defense already, I got to take some forwards. And perfect. From the Vegas Golden Knights, I will gladly, actually, maybe instead I'm going to go with Chandler Stevenson. 2 years left on his deal, signed for less money than Jonathan Marchessault. Same overall as well. I will gladly take him on my team. Now for Washington, I could go with Nick Jensen or TJ Oshie. Oshie kind of makes a lot of money. We only have 5.7 to work with. So instead, I'll go with Abu Kubel. And finally, from the Winnipeg Jets, I will go with Nino. Actually, no, I'll go with Adam Lowry, 82 overall, 30 years old at $3.2 million. And there you have it, the year one official roster of the Quebec Nordiques here in NHL 24. Make sure you rate my selections 1 to 10 in the comments below. Now, here we are in the NHL entry draft. I really want to go after Seth Curtis, who is a medium elite potential centerman / right winger. He's a playmaker, which suits our team very well. A shooting, A puck skills, and A-. He's also a similar style to Jonathan Toews, 1 year ETA NHL ready, so he'll be ready by year 2. I mean, year number 1, we're not going to be great either. I mean, we could go with Kabanov, who's only got top 6 potential, but I think I'll go after Seth Curtis. Make that selection for the Quebec Nordiques, 75 overall with medium elite potential. So here we are in free agency with almost up to $5 million to spend. Honestly, the free agents are kind of rough. Josh Bailey's the best at an 80 overall, so I don't think I'm going to go after anybody. I mean, maybe I'll get Josh Bailey for a third or fourth line center or / winger. What I mean, outside of that, I think we're good. We'll just head into year number 1 and hopefully not be very good. And maybe we can get another great draft pick next season. Now, the first trade I'm going to make is going for Pavel Mintyukov. We know he grows to a 90 overall very quickly in this game. Low trade value, low contract right now for Chernak, a first and a second round pick. And the Anaheim Ducks came out on the, or they don't think that they came out on the short end of the stick, so it is a done deal. I'm going after the guys I know grow to a high overall, but start out with low trade value in this game. Next up, I'm going after Anton Lundell, who can grow to a 90 overall. We have our second or first line center locked up as well. He does need to be re-signed, but we should have no problem with the cap space for a first, second, and another second round pick. And luckily, Florida had no problem accepting my offer. Next up is going after Wyatt Johnston. Then we have our top 2 centers booked for the future. Also, Jamie Benn to make the money work for Evgeny Kuznetsov. They have rejected, so we're going to have to sweeten the deal with some picks. I have no problem doing that. I will give them a second, third, and a fourth round pick. And luckily, they did have no idea, or have no problem, I should say, accepting my offer. Now, from Philly, I want to go after Sanheim, who's locked up long-term, 8 years at 6.2. He's already, what, an 87 overall, and he's 27 years of age. For Chandler Stevenson, a third, fourth, and a fifth round pick. And we got that done, as GM Pasta is making some moves to help Quebec long-term here. Now, from Seattle, I want to go after Shane Wright for Mason Marchment, a second, and I threw in a bunch of picks to make this work, and luckily the trade was accepted. So we are building towards the future. We got a lot of young players. The only problem I'm really going to have is probably signing them once their entry-level deals are over. I'm basically just going along every team looking for young guys that I know can grow to a high overall and trading the older players I selected from the expansion draft for those players to get younger and also better. Next up is going after Matthew Nyes for Adam Lowry and some draft picks. And luckily, Toronto had no problem accepting my offer. So I think I might be done with the trades for now, at least for season number 1. So my final trade before we head into season number 1 is for Rutger McGroarty. He's on the trading block, so it should be pretty easy to get him for a 7th, 2nd, and John Marino. And the trade has been accepted on the behalf of the Anaheim, or not the Anaheim Ducks, the Winnipeg Jets. All right, so as we head into year number 1, this is what our roster currently looks like. We got Kubalik, Shane Wright, and Middlestat on that first line. Funny enough, they got a +5 there. We also have Wyatt Johnston alongside Lundell and Matthew Nyes. Tolavainen with Tippett and Ben, and then our fourth line consists of Kapanen, Rutger McGroarty, and Alex Iafallo. Now defensively, we are very well off with Sanheim and Mintyukov. They have a +3. We also have Forsling and Ekholm, Keandre Miller, and then Mikey Anderson. And in goal, we have Jeremy Swayman up at an 87 overall, with an 82 backup in Dustin Wolf. So I don't think we'll be a terrible team in year number 1, but I don't expect us to make the playoffs. I think we'll be mid because of our defense, and goaltending is actually pretty good. Offensively, we're a little bit on the weaker end, but we are definitely going to be improving that year after year. We will also not be naming a captain yet, so an assistant captain can be Jamie Benn, Matthias Ekholm, and Gustav Forsling, as we are a very, very young team. Now, before we go ahead with the simulation, if you guys do enjoy videos like this, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you get notified when I go live or post a video. And now let's see how Quebec will do in year number 1 of franchise mode. Now, no surprise here, as Quebec is not going to make the playoffs. What is surprising is that we only missed by 4 points. We won 42 games, 32 losses in regulation, and 8 in overtime for 92 points. Boston was the best team in our division with 51 wins, and for the entire NHL, it was the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, individually, Casey Mittelstadt was our leading point man, 63 points. Wyatt Johnston had a big season, 27 goals, 59 points. Kubalik had 55. Jamie Benn was okay. Shane Wright, 15 goals, 52 points as a rookie. That will make him grow. Forsling was pretty good. Sam Hyman as well as Lundell. Now, for goalies, Swayman played most of the season, 34, 24, and 6. 4 shutouts and pretty good statistics, honestly. A 912 save percentage, I can't get mad. And Dustin Wolf, for a rookie, I mean, an 893 save percentage. He'll definitely grow, though. He's already up to an 83 overall. Austin Matthews is going to lead the entire NHL in goals with 62 and points with 111. The Boston Bruins would go on and win the Stanley Cup, dominating Dallas in 5 games in the finals. Matthews will take home all the major individual awards. The Norris would go to Quinn Hughes, the Conn Smythe to the Rat, Brad Marchand, Ilya Samsonov, the Vezina, and the Selke will go to Crosby. So now in the re-sign phase, we do got to get back Casey Mittelstadt. That's a major guy, 85 overall, 25 years old. Outside of him, though, I mean, Dante Fabro, I might end up letting walk, in all honesty. Kubalik, I could re-sign for a cheap deal. Daniel Sprong, I'll probably let him walk. Everybody else is locked up in our goalies. We got to get both of them back. Swayman's an 88, Dustin Wolf's an 85. 2 years in the difference for both of these guys. I do want to get both of them until I figure out who will be the starter of the future. Now, as we head into season number 2, Shane Wright has grown up to an 85 overall after an amazing season. Johnston's up to an 86. We have him with Mittelstadt. Then we have Tippett, Lundell, McGroarty, Iafallo, Tolavainen, and Nyes. And then our fourth line also is pretty good defensively. This is where we shine. Mintyukov and Sanheim, 87, 88, +5 on that. Miller, Forsling, 86 and 85, a +2 with that. And then we have Romanov and Ekholm as our bottom line pair, and a 90 overall Jeremy Swayman alongside an 87 Dustin Wolf. So, we almost made the playoffs last season. Offensively, still, we need a lot of work to get some high offense talent. Defense and goalie are definitely our strong suit, but I mean, I'm hoping we can at least make the playoffs this season. If not, I will not be terribly upset considering we're still very young in the sim. And we all do know if I don't win a Stanley Cup within 10 seasons, not only have I failed the challenge, but I also have failed Canada trying to bring them home a Stanley Cup. So hopefully I will be able to do that here in the sim. We have 9 more years to go. And our team honestly is looking pretty good for now and for the future. And in only our second season back in the NHL, the Quebec Nordiques have made the postseason. 47 wins, 29 losses, 6 in overtime, 100 points. Florida was the best team in our division and for the entire NHL as well. Shane Wright had a monster season at 21 years old. 34 goals, 72 points, and a +16. Travis Sanheim had 68. He's definitely going to grow. Mittelstadt had 32 goals, 62 points. Lundell was good. Johnston was good, as well as Owen Tippett. And for our goalie, Swayman, 40, 19, and 4, 2 shutouts, and a 912 save percentage. He might be the goalie of the future. Dustin Wolf is kind of struggling in the limited amount of games that he's actually performing in, an 899 save percentage. I mean, he can grow to like a 90 by like next season, but still, if he doesn't simulate well, I'm going with Swayman. Nikita Kucherov will lead the NHL in scoring with 114 points. Shout out Connor Bedard being up there in only, his 3rd season in the league? Actually, his 2nd season, 42 goals. Speaking of goals, Austin Matthews will lead with 67 on the season. And Matvei Mishkov, at 20 years old, puts up 51 points in his 2nd year in the NHL. Yeah, this guy's going to be an absolute stud. Now, for our first playoff series back in the postseason, unfortunately, we have to play the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have a lot of playoff experience and history winning the Stanley Cup. They also simulate very well in this game, so it should be a tough matchup for us. I have no idea how, but we dominated Tampa Bay in 5 games, and now we have the other half of Florida in the Florida Panthers for round number 2. Sadly, the Florida Panthers would end up sweeping us in the 2nd round, but hey, we won a playoff series in our first time being here against a very experienced Tampa Bay squad. Now, the good news is we did lose to the eventual Stanley Cup winning Florida Panthers, who swept the LA Kings in the finals. They also swept us in the 2nd round. Now, for the postseason, Casey Mittelstadt was our best player, 5 goals, 9 points. Forsling had 9, Lundell 7, Johnston 6, Shane Wright didn't score a single goal, but had 6 points. Kucherov will take home the Ted Lindsay Art Austin Hart Trophy. Matthews, the Maurice Richard, the Norris, the Cale Makar. Barkov, the Conn Smythe. Spencer Knight is going to win the Vezina, as the Selke will go to Ryan O'Reilly. Now, in the offseason, the only guy that we went out and got was Alexander Nylander for a $6.3 million deal. He is 85 overall at 27 years old, so I think that's a pretty good contract to sign him to as we now head into next season. Matthew Nyes, who qualified him. We pretty much got everybody back. Nobody we really had to sign. Now, this is what our forward core looks like heading into year number 3. We got Lundell up at a 90 with Wright and Middlestat. Tippett, Johnston, and Nylander. Seth Curtis, the guy we drafted in year number 1. So now this is what our forward core looks like heading into year number 3. We got Lundell up at a 90 with Shane Wright and Casey Middlestat. Owen Tippett alongside Wyatt Johnston and Alex Nylander. Seth Curtis, the guy we drafted in year number 1 already, is up to an 84 overall alongside Rutger McGroarty and Eli Tolavainen. Then we have Iafallo, Nyes, and Hartman as our fourth line. Now defensively, we still have Sanheim and Mintyukov. Mintyukov now up to a 90 overall. He doesn't need to re-sign next season, so that's going to be a challenge. Also, Keandre Miller alongside Gustav Forsling with Samuelson and Mikey Anderson. And then in goal, we have a 91 Swayman and a 90 overall Dustin Wolf. Should be able to comfortably make the playoffs with this roster and hopefully have a very deep playoff run, because in a few years, a lot of these guys do need to be re-signed, so we might have to trade them or add in new pieces. Now, we are going to take a slight step back this season as we do miss the playoffs, 38, 35, and 9, 85 points. So I don't really know what was the issue, maybe goal scoring wise. We can't even score 3 goals per game. Tampa Bay was the best team in our division, winning 55 games, and for the entire NHL, it was them also. And there it is. Offensively, we were not the greatest. Lundell, leading point man at 69 points. Middlestat had 61, also 31 goals. Shane Wright took a step back, 24 goals, 61 points. Nylander only had 48, so that contract was a massive overpay. Forsling was okay. Sanheim, all right, I guess. And in goal, Swayman, he rocked a 921. He kept us in there as long as he could. Also 4 shutouts, and Dustin Wolf was good in the games that he played, 28 of them. So it was our offense, so we got to go out and get a scorer in the offseason that can put the puck in the back of the net. Austin Matthews will dominate the NHL, 65 goals, tying Kirill Kaprizov, and he's going to have the most points at 125. And the Florida Panthers would end up going back-to-back as they are dominating, sweeping the Minnesota Wild in the Stanley Cup Finals. Matthews will dominate all the awards again. The Norris, the Cale Makar, Alexander Barkov, the Conn Smythe, Hellebuck, the Vezina, and the Selke will go to Ryan O'Reilly yet again. Luckily, in the offseason, we did get Pavel Mintyukov signed long-term at $8.9 million. He statistically is our best player at the moment, so I think that's a pretty good deal for a 22-year-old. All right, now I know that Patrick Kane is very old, but he can still simulate pretty well. He put up 70 points last season, 1 year left on his deal for 2 seconds, 2/3, and Ryan Hartman. And I mean, there's no problem with Carolina taking that offer. I offered them a boatload of picks. Now, heading into year number 4, we're rolling out pretty much the same roster, although we picked up Patty Kane, who gives us a +5 in the first line, 84 overall, alongside Lundell and Middlestat. We also have Rutger McGroarty with Shane Wright and Wyatt Johnston, Tippett, Curtis, and Tolavainen. Defensively, we still got Mintyukov and Sanheim. Also Forsling with Samuelson, Mikey Anderson, and then the guy we drafted, Will Skahan. We drafted him in year number 2, 16th overall. He's a two-way defender, similar to Zdeno Chara. He's already a 79 overall. And in goal, a 91 Swayman and 90 Dustin Wolf. Now, for the second straight season in a row, we're going to miss the playoffs again. 7th in the Atlantic, 42, 38, and 2. I mean, our division really, honestly, is pretty stacked. 86 points is not good enough to get you in the playoffs, though. You got to get at least +90. Montreal was the best team in our division, winning 51 games, and for the entire NHL, it was the Carolina Hurricanes. Patrick Kane will lead our team in scoring with 49 points. We need to make a change. Rutger McGroarty came in second with 48. Mintyukov only 47. We didn't have a single 50-point scorer on our team. We got basically carried by our defense and goaltending. So yeah, we got to make some changes in the offseason, bring some new offensive guys in. Swayman literally had a 920 and 4 shutouts, yet we still did not make the postseason. Matvei Mishkov will dominate the league, 71 goals, 112 points. The Colorado Avalanche would end up going on and taking home the Stanley Cup after beating Carolina in 5 games in the finals. Fantilli will win the Ted Lindsay and Hart Trophy, the Art Ross and Maurice Richard to Mishkov, Quinn Hughes, the Norris, the Conn Smythe to Cale Makar. Vasi will win the Vezina, and the Selke will go to Elias Pettersson. Now, to be honest, in free agency, there's nobody I really want to go after. I'm waiting for that big name free agent to come out and like a 95 overall forward that we can scoop up. But really, all these guys don't interest me too much. I might make a trade in the offseason. We got to do something with our offense to make it a lot better. All right, so here's my splash in the offseason. It might seem like a lot, but Dustin Wolf, a first, a second, another fraction. We're going to remove one of the first round picks, only give them one. Also, Shane Wright for Jake Gensu, who scores consistently 40 goals. He is 32 years old, But, I mean, we got to make a move now. We got to start waiting. Let's see. Will this go through? And Carolina has accepted my offer. Instead, I'll slot in a first-round pick, and they are going to accept this deal. So, after that offseason, we have a much different team now. Gensel, Lundell, and Middlestat on the first line. Then we have Wilson, Wyatt Johnston, alongside Rutger McGroarty. We got a +2 there. Tolavainen, Curtis, and Tippett. Probably the best third line in the entire league. And then our fourth line is okay. Matthew Nyes doesn't make it better. Defensively, Sanheim and Mintyukov. We got Miller, Forsling, Samuelson, and Skahan, my bad. Will Skahan, and then in goal, a 91 overall Jeremy Swayman. There's no debate anymore. He's our starter. Lead us to the promised land, please. Now, Quebec is going to be naming their first ever captain in their new franchise's history. It's going to be Pavel Mintyukov, our best defenseman, and technically our best player at a 91, I believe. He'll be here long term, so I mean, we had to name a captain eventually, and he's going to be the guy because there's no chance that I move him in the next 5 years. I also went ahead and reworked our coaching staff in the offseason. We got a better head coach, assistant, and an associate, so hopefully we can sim better. Now, thankfully, we are back into the playoffs, third in our division, 47, 25, and 10, 104 points for the entire NHL. The Montreal Canadiens were the best team. I mean, the Atlantic Division, if we take a look, holy hell, is it ever good. We have only two teams that did not have over 90 points this season. That is absolutely crazy. Tampa Bay won 48 games and they missed the playoffs. Jake Gensel is going to have a monster season, 46 goals, 102 points. Seth Curtis only had 8 goals but 69 points. Lundell 66, Middlestat 62, Rutger McGroarty hit 31 goals. Johnston was okay. And if we take a look at Swayman, a .913 save percentage and 7 shutouts alongside 41 wins. Jack Eichel will end up leading the entire NHL in scoring with 114 points now on the Minnesota Wild. And for goals, it will be Matthews, who had 72, followed by Fantilli, who had 52, and Mishkov 51. As in the first round of the playoffs, we are going to be playing the Buffalo Sabres. We would sweep them in the first round, and now we got to face the President's Trophy winning Montreal Canadiens. A battle of Quebec between the Nordiques and the Canadiens. Now, we did almost blow a 3-0 series lead to Montreal. Luckily, we did clutch up in Game 7, and now we have the Columbus Blue Jackets in the conference finals. And the Quebec Nordiques, for the first time since they've been back, have made the Stanley Cup finals up against the Minnesota Wild, who we do know have a pretty good team 5 years in. Can we go on and complete the challenge in half the amount of time, winning the Stanley Cup with the Quebec Nordiques in NHL 24? And the Quebec Nordiques have done it in 5 years. GM Pasta has not only made this team a franchise again in the NHL, but has won them a Stanley Cup after a couple heartbreaking seasons of missing the playoffs. We finally got back in and we made the Stanley Cup final, beating Minnesota in Game 7 on home ice. In Game 7 on home ice, doesn't get any sweeter than that. Now for the Conn Smythe, it will go to Anton Lundell, 13 goals, 22 points in the postseason. We were really more of a defensive team still, even after adding a 40-goal scorer in Jake Gensel. We really were carried by our very good D-core and our amazing goalie in Jeremy Swayman. And there it is, the Stanley Cup waiting to be presented to Quebec, I believe for the first time in franchise history. I'm not too familiar with if they've won a Stanley Cup or not. I know Lindros didn't want to play there for some reason, but regardless, Pavel Mintyukov, our captain, coming to lift the cup for the first time in his career as the Nordiques are back and better than ever, as we are now Stanley Cup champions. Now, in the postseason, obviously, Lundell was our Conn Smythe winner. Jake Gensel did have 21 points, Middlestat 19, Tolavainen 16, Tom Wilson, a W pickup, 6 goals, 16 points. And if we take a look at Swayman, a .927 save percentage. Are you kidding me? 2 shutouts, 16, 4, and 3 record. He was absolutely amazing. I honestly do think Swayman probably deserved the Conn Smythe, in my opinion. Jack Eichel will take home the Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy. The Maurice Richard to Matthews, the Norris to Cale Makar. The Conn Smythe, obviously, to Lundell. Swayman will win the Vezina. He had a monster season, and the Selke will go to Logan Cooley. And that is going to do it for this video. I've gone ahead, completed the challenge. In only 5 years, I was given 10 to win a Stanley Cup with the Nordiques, and I got the job done. After missing the playoffs in year number 1, making in year number 2, and having a strong playoff run, we missed for 2 straight seasons. We're back in this year, and we won the goddamn Stanley Cup. Thank God. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure you leave some support on it. Let me know in the comments below what you guys would like to see next. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, don't be silly. Wrap your willy.